Hey, I'm Eddie with Duxxbak Decking. I'm in the studio today with Scott, and we're going to be learning all about Duxxbak. So tell us, Scott, what are we going to be diving into?
So we're basically going to be diving into what are the important principles that you, the contractor, need to think about as you're installing these decks to make sure that the end result is something successful that you can stand behind, and it gives the best opportunity for you to be successful.
That sounds good. So I want to give you a little permission here because I know in a little bit you're going to be showing us exactly how to put down Duxxbak deck, and we're really here to train the contractor.
Right.
So some of the things that we're doing here, we've taken the install instructions and we've pared it down so it's not word for word, but we are going to be reading a little bit so we tell everybody properly what's going on here. So
Right.
I just want to set that up for everyone so that they realize what we're up to here.
Right.
So before we even get started talking about putting deck boards down, it's really important to have the structure and the framework proper. So give us the important parts that the contractors need to remember when they get started.
Absolutely. So right at the top of the list is the pitch. There needs to be a minimum pitch of an 1/8 inch per lineal foot, and that's always going to be in the direction of the intended water flow. Another thing you need to think about that is really good, it's a really good benefit for this product, is the spacing. It can go up to a maximum of 24 inches on center. Another thing that I think is really crucial is for the guys framing it, the top of your deck structure, that needs to be totally in plane, flat, from the standpoint of planing across the boards. You can help to achieve that with the blocking that you put in. Any joist really that's 6 foot or over, you need to have blocking in, and that's going to help to prevent twisting and warping, which the intention of that is to keep that top plane perfectly straight. It's at a pitch, but it's straight.
Got it. So tell me about ventilation, because ventilation is real important for pretty much any composite deck. But talk to me about the requirements for Duxxbak.
Yep. So Duxxbak decks should be installed on an open structure, and that's going to allow for ventilation through the framework. If you're installing a ceiling below, the ventilation must comply. It has to comply with the residential building code. So specific details on that are in our written instructions.
Yeah, there's a lot more detail in it, but you need to follow code requirements for ventilation.
Right.
So keep going on that. Tell me about a little bit more about the ventilation properties.
Yep. So Duxxbak decking, because it's unique, it's meant to be installed over something where you might have an outdoor living area, maybe an outdoor kitchen or whatever it might be. It's not really designed or approved to be in a location that has a heated living space or temperature controlled living space.
How about expansion and contraction?
So it's a question that we get a lot, actually. Expansion and contraction happens actually with all composite decking. And so ours isn't an exception on that, but you should avoid the installation of the product in extreme temperatures. And one of the ways that we handle that is with spacing. We have a gapping tool, a 32nd inch spacer that we have for installations, and that will help to alleviate those issues with expansion and contraction.
How about we run into this a lot, and it's right in our install instructions, number 7 on our list here.
Yep.
Talk to me about this.
So, and I didn't even realize this when I first came on, but there is an issue that you need to think about. It's heat buildup can happen from reflective sunlight off of windows and doors. And a lot of guys probably don't think about that, but that can really affect your decking. So that is something that you would take into your planning.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in my background with siding, where you get that reflective and it hits siding and bubbles it off the wall. And that same thing can damage decking.
Absolutely.
So got to be aware of it.
Yep.
All right. What else do we need to be aware of?
Yeah. So composite decking is it's not a structural element. Although our product is just super strong, it's not meant to have structural members placed directly on top of it. The composite decking itself should be cut around those types of obstructions, just so that it doesn't compress the decking material is what we're looking at.
And what else do I need to be aware of?
So when you're installing it, maybe a lot of people would ask, is there any special tools that I need to have? And my answer to that would be just any of the normal tools that you would have on your job site. Those are the tools that you use with our product as well.
Sounds good. Well, I think we're ready to get into the install.
Sounds good. Hey, I'm Scott with Duxxbak Decking, and we're here in the studio today to demonstrate the installation of our Duxxbak water shedding deck system. Here are some key details about the Duxxbak deck board that are essential to remember. We will walk through each component of the board, starting with the fastening wing, the drainage channel, the cell, the septum, and finally the groove wing. Duxxbak deck boards have laser engraved identification information on the board edge of the mounting wing. Duxxbak deck boards are made from a formulation of BioDAC, rice hulls, high-density polyethylene, and other high-quality materials. Its properties are a departure from other manufactured decking. The boards should be stored on a flat surface with supports every 48 inches. Do not stack decking more than 4 units high. It is highly recommended the Duxxbak boards remain bundled until installation. Now let's look at how to properly prepare the first deck board. We're starting from the deck's right side, so we need to remove the groove wing. To do this, you can make a rip cut along any septum in the board. After making this cut, use a sander and carefully smooth and round off the edge for a uniform look that will blend perfectly with the rest of the deck. Before placing any board, we'll apply sealant along the deck's outermost structural members. Duxxbak recommends using a high-quality sealant like Lexel. This creates a water stop along the deck edge, keeping moisture from seeping under the board. Position the first board with a removed groove wing side, either flush or overhanging the edge of the deck. In our example, we are installing with about a 1-inch overhang. A 3/16 inch gap must be allowed where the end of the board meets the house. The starter and finisher boards are the only place we will need a face screw. Use a 2 1/4 inch or longer screw when attaching through the face. Then use an 1 1/4 inch or longer screw to attach the decking through the fastening wing. We'll start with our longer trim head screws to the face of the board at each joist. You'll want to place the screw near a septum of the deck board to take advantage of the points of strength. Set the screw heads just below the top surface to avoid pullout and to partially conceal the screw head. It is possible to conceal the heads by gathering the material which has been displaced by the screw on top and tapping with a hammer. Complete the installation of the first board by inserting an 1 1/4 inch or longer trim screw through the fastening wing at each joist. Insert the screw at a 55 to 60 degree angle. Do not use composite screws, the ones with reverse threads near the top end of the screw. The reverse threads displace too much material, compromising the decking attachment to the structure. Ideally, a screw with a smooth, non-threaded shaft at its top should be used. Make sure the fastener coating is approved for use in your structural material. Stainless steel screws are recommended for use near salt water. To secure the board, Duxxbak composite decking screws or approved equivalent are required. Details are in the installation guide on the website. With the first and each subsequent board, apply a generous glob of sealant into the drainage channel closest to the house to prevent wind-driven rain from being blown backward through the channel toward the house. Then apply a bead of sealant onto the joist nearest the house and at the outer joist. Position the second and subsequent boards by engaging the interlocking grooves of each board to lock the boards together. Remember to allow a minimum of 3/16 inch from the board ends to the wall. Using a 32nd inch gapping tool, secure each board using the prescribed fasteners. The gap between deck boards will allow the deck structure to move without compromising the integrity of the deck surface. For this training video, we are installing our traction finish Duxxbak. It also comes in an armor cap finish. Mounting clips are required for the armor cap Duxxbak. Clips are essential for the armor cap because the capstock material requires additional force to securely fasten the board to the structure, particularly at the ends of the boards. This ensures a stable and durable installation. The Duxxbak mounting clips are designed to uniformly distribute the point load of the screw on the mounting wing and prevent over-penetration of the screw at the ends of the boards where the maximum support is needed. The Duxxbak mounting clip should be centered directly over the joist and the screw installed at a 55 degree angle from horizontal. For boards shorter than 20 feet, a clip must be placed at the last joist on each end. For boards 20 feet or longer, a clip must be installed on each of the last 2 joists at both ends of the board. We will add a wooden railing post to our deck for demonstration purposes. Notch the first and second boards to allow for any obstruction that will penetrate the decking surface. Cut the notches to allow for a clearance of 3/16 of an inch on all sides of obstructions. Remember to apply sealant to the outermost rim as with every board. After notching the second board, place a continuous bead of sealant into the entire length of the interlocking groove of the second board. Because the railing post will interrupt the channel, any water entering the channel could become trapped without introduction of sealant in the interlocking groove. Make sure to apply a generous amount of sealant into the drainage channel closest to the post to prevent wind-driven rain from being blown backward through the channel. You can then proceed as usual. The rest of the process is the same as with previous boards until you come to the finished board. Since we are finishing on the left side of our deck, we need to prepare the finished deck board properly by removing the water channel. If the final board will overhang the deck, as ours will here in the training video, rip the board back to a septum to overhang the fascia an acceptable distance. As in preparation of the starter board, clean up the ripped edge using a sander. Secure the last deck board to the joist by inserting one trim head screw through the face of the board at each joist. Our next step is to install flashing for the deck and make sure things are sealed. Place a generous continuous bead of sealant on top of the deck boards, approximately 3/4 of an inch away from the house. This sealant will create a barrier to keep wind-driven water from being blown back underneath the flashing. Cut a piece of corrosion-resistant flashing to be installed behind the house wrap membrane and on top of the decking. The flashing should be bent so that when installed, it will naturally compress against the wall and the deck and will shed water away from the house. Install your pre-bent flashing at the house-to-deck connection, holding the flashing tight against the house and sliding it down onto the decking, thereby compressing the sealant installed in the previous step. Be sure that a continuous seal is formed between the flashing and the decking. Secure the flashing to the wall behind the house wrap using a roofing nail, staple, or other appropriate fastener. Secure the house wrap to the face of the flashing using appropriate sealing tape. Install waterproofing butyl tape to the deck board and obstruction at all locations where an obstruction penetrates the deck so that water does not find its way through the deck to the area below. The waterproofing butyl tape will be concealed by the post sleeve and base trim when the rail system is installed. If the railing posts are not sleeved, a trim piece can be created to conceal the butyl tape. Be sure to only fasten the trim piece to the wood post, not to or through the decking. If installing structural railing posts, follow the manufacturer's installation instructions, keeping in mind to seal the interlocking groove if a fastener penetrates through the drainage channel. Also, make sure to apply a generous amount of Lexel sealant around the base of posts and around each fastener head to prevent water penetration. Now it's time to install the end caps. Use this rule to determine end cap direction for Duxxbak. Simply refer to the side of the deck at which you began installation, left or right, and that is the end cap you need to use. Insert the end cap with the drain slots down and the arrow pointing up. End caps can be secured using an adhesive sealant applied to the legs of each cap before insertion. Alternatively, an 1/8 inch hole may be drilled through the underside of the decking and through two legs of the end cap, into which a number 6 by 1 inch pen head screw can be placed. That's it. Once you install your rail system, you are ready to enjoy your new deck.
Well, good. We're done with the install. Now, I want to do a little recap here for everybody. So this is all in a nutshell on how we get there. So I want to give you permission again to be a little mechanical about this. I want to make sure we cover the key points in the summary here together. So tell me how you prep that starter and finish board.
Yep. So for the starter board, you want to rip the groove wing off. And on the finisher board, you're going to rip the water channel, which is also called the fastening wing. You can, in order to get your proper spacing with your overhang, you can rip the board along any of the septums, and then you sand down the edge with a sander. We prefer like a belt sander with a heavy grit. Works really well. And then for the armor cap finished boards, those can be stained after sanding to get close to matching the color of the armor cap itself.
Got it. So what are the key points to remember about sealant with Duxxbak?
Right. So what we recommend is Lexel brand sealants. It just adheres to our product really well. You'll want to also apply a bead to the entire perimeter, and that's going to prevent wicking. As you're installing the boards, you're going to apply a large glob in the drainage channel that's nearest the house, and what that's going to do is prevent wind blowback up the channel. And then lastly, whenever the drainage channel is interrupted, you're going to apply sealant to the interlocking groove to prevent water from getting inside.
Got it. When we're talking about gapping the boards to any structure, tell me about the gapping that's required.
Yep. So we mentioned that a little bit. Anytime you have an obstruction, you'll want to leave yourself a 3/16 of an inch gap anywhere where the boards meet that obstruction or along the house as well.
And it's at the side or the end of the board, right? Is the gap.
Yep.
That's important. And then fasteners are really important with any composite board, but with Duxxbak, why don't you walk through? I know there's a little bit of detail here, but this is really important to recap this.
Right on. So you'll want to use the authentic Duxxbak composite decking screws that we offer, or you can use the equivalent as well. Keep in mind all of your fasteners, and this is pretty common with all decking anyway, but they should be positioned at least 3/4 of an inch away from the ends of the deck boards. You'll want to face screw only your starter and finishing board with a 2 1/4 inch or longer Duxxbak composite decking fastener or the equivalent. Any required face fastener should be placed near the structural septum of the deck board, but it should not go directly through that septum. Use 1 1/4 or longer Duxxbak composite decking screws to attach the decking through the fastening wing. And then lastly, ensure that the fastener heads do not overpenetrate.
That's really important. And tell me about, that's actually related to the next one here. Tell me about the mounting clips.
Yep. So on the armor cap finish that we have, the mounting clips are required for those. What you'll do is for boards that are shorter than 20 feet, you're going to have a clip placed at the last joist on each end. For boards, any boards that are longer than 20 feet, a clip has to be installed on the last 2 joists, both ends of the board.
Got it. And when you're interlocking the boards together, how do you maintain that gap between the boards during install?
Yep. So we talked about that just a little bit before. We have a gapping tool that we can provide, and that provides that 32nd inch gap between the boards.
Awesome. And then once a deck's all put together, make sure it's watertight. Tell me about flashing, just real briefly about flashing.
So the last step is to put a continuous bead of sealant along the decking boards about a 3/4 of an inch away from the house. And then you're going to take your flashing, whatever flashing you're going to use, and you'll place that against the house and drop it down onto the decking, making sure that it has a tight seal, and then fasten that flashing to the house.
So the key difference is the flashing is on top.
It's on top,
right?
Yep. All the water is directed on top of the decking.
Yep. Traditionally, it would be under, but
Correct.
Obviously we want it to be watertight down there.
Yep.
So, good stuff. All right. So we get a lot of questions about care and maintenance. So Scott, why don't you cover care and maintenance with us, with everybody?
Absolutely. So occasional cleaning will help to keep your deck looking fresh. A nylon bristle brush or a broom will make the task easier. A pressure washer with a fan tip may be carefully used to clean your deck if it's guided along in the direction of the grain at a consistent height above the deck. A water broom can be used to assure even coverage and a consistent result. Although your Duxxbak water shedding deck system is durable, care should be taken to avoid scratching. If scratches appear in traction finish Duxxbak, you can carefully draw a stainless steel brush across the scratches in the direction of the grain to remove or reduce the scratches. Do not use a wire brush on armor cap finish Duxxbak. Many house spills can be removed with an all-purpose household cleaner, concentrated dish soap, laundry detergent, degreaser, or deck cleaner. Fresh spills are more easily removed, and a nylon bristle brush will help achieve the best results. Mold and mildew that may form on the surface of your deck are environmentally generated and will not damage your deck. These can generally be removed with cleaners that are designed to remove mold and mildew, along with the use of a pressure washer and nylon bristle brush as described above. With any of these recommendations, always test a small area to ensure that the surface texture is not damaged.
Nice. Thanks for that. We get a lot of questions around that, so it's important that we get it out there.
Yep.
All right. So the last thing we need to cover really is our warranty. So there, again, nothing glamorous here with the warranty. So why don't you tell us exactly what the warranty says?
All right. The Duxxbak deck water shedding deck system comes with a limited lifetime warranty that provides coverage against splintering and splitting, rot and decay, and termite damage. The system is designed to shed water and will keep the underdeck area dry when properly installed. Every material expands and contracts with temperature variations, and engineered decking is no exception. Avoid potential problems by allowing time for proper acclimation of your decking to local temperatures prior to installation. Expansion and contraction are not a product defect and is not covered under the Duxxbak deck water shedding deck system warranty.
Yeah, and on the website, you'll find the complete agreement that you can download, and you want to also register each one of your decks right on our website.
Right.
Well, thanks. Great job. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And
Thanks,
yeah, thanks for helping me through this.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.